percentage of reducing our greenhouse gases each year will be 5%. Then the percentage of existing forest land will be 50%. Percentage of existing open land will be 10%.
Okay, so no changes from last round?
Yeah, because we're still keen on pushing hard. If we see the match from the discussions from the others, because we had a challenge with China, I think it's a disappointment we have a disappointment from, other developing countries from China. So maybe if China can really close down the 0% they have, maybe there's something could change in our percentages, because we much depend on developed countries and the likes of the superpowers of China. But again, our disappointment with China is they're the world largest emitter of CO2. So if they really do not have a lot to do with preventing deforestation and promoting afforestation as well, so we are really still tied onto that. I think our honest request is that they can have at least some percentages or commitments to show that at least they're interested in preventing deforestation and also promoting afforestation physically. Like it should be showing, not just in terms of other things they're claiming. But if we can achieve that, I think the percentages could change a bit.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, that makes sense. And I want to, encourage other countries with more resources to make stronger commitments here. And yes, and then other developing, you would be on the receiving end of the Green Climate Fund. So I don't need a number from you on that. Thank you, Derek. Will someone from India let me know your pledges?
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the floor. I am speaking on behalf of India. So we actually negotiate, we are actually planning to keep our percentages like that, but we negotiated with Team United States and China, and we pledged China to increase the amount towards the green climate efforts, and also the United States, because they are the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases into the world, and being the developed nation, they have the more resources and more money to do that thing, and eventually they are depending on the developing country for their survival. And as this pandemic has told us, we are all in this together, and if one country is moving more and one country is doing less, we cannot do that. We have to be developing country for their survival, and as the equity here, and we have to treat each and everyone according to the best responsible. And we urge EU also to promote deforestation, because there is a lot of cutting of the tree going down, and we being the developed country has pledged for 25% afforestation, and I think that's the highest among the negotiations here. So I think we should also urge to that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you to the negotiators from India. All right, would someone from China please tell me your pledges?
Hello. So our peak here is 2040. Year will begin from 2030. Annual reduction rates 10%. Then afforestation, deforestation 5%.
Sir,
afforestation
like
5%.
Peak is 2030. The peak is 2030.
Peak is 2030.
Sorry, 2031. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's an ambitious emissions reduction goal. And will you be giving anything to the Green Climate Fund?
We are willing to leverage on business opportunity associated with the fact that we have our technological products. So we look forward to investment from other countries so that we can subsidize our technology products, such as the electromobility and our solar panels products to them. We are not making any investment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the negotiators from China. All right, other developed nations, what are your pledges?
So we are going to keep our emissions peak year and reductions begin year the same, because we do strongly believe that the time to take action is now. And we would hope that the United States, with their significant amount of carbon emissions, would make a similar commitment as well. I mean, we would love to commit to a greater annual reduction rate in carbon emissions, but I would like to see what the United States has in mind first.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to the EU, and then we will return to the US and China.
Okay, so once again, we can't really change our emissions peak year, so we're staying in 2020, but we have decided to push our beginning of reductions back to 2025. And we're also increasing our annual reduction rate target from the current rate of 3.5%, which is already considered highly ambitious by the UN Environmental Program, up to 3.8%. I would also like to point out that between, it seems like a lot of people were upset at the deforestation and afforestation efforts of the European Union. Between 1990 and 2015, the EU actually added forest space. We are currently in a negative state of deforestation. So that's why our deforestation is at 0, and we've been doing this for 25 years. So we're going to increase our afforestation rate to 2% because we are going to continue to focus on adding biodiversity and carbon sinks further, but the reason that those numbers are low is because they have already been low. We are also willing to up our contribution to the GCF to $30 billion, but I think the lack of investment into the GCF by China, the lack of investment by India, and in particular, the lack of investment by the United States is absolutely unacceptable. We have a $100 billion target, and the economic engines of these countries are fueled by past carbon emissions. We have a responsibility and an absolute necessity to add significant amount of money more in there. And the EU would like to see comparable investment by the United States, by China, and by India into the Green Fund. And we're not willing to increase further past $30 billion when other people are throwing around $1 billion or $100 million, because I'm not going to put that tax on our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you to the EU. All right, US, you're up.
Yeah, so we are gonna like the annual reduction rate would be 2%. Hello.
Excuse me. The climate activists are protesting the emissions reductions from the United States. For too long, you all have polluted the earth at the expense of the global south, and the current emissions targets are unacceptable. Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah, so we are going at like 2%, and the deforestation would be increased to 55%. The prevention of deforestation would be increased to 55%, and the afforestation would be increased to 20%. And like if we take in consideration of China, that they are the second largest economy and they don't need anything like from US to manufacture. I mean, they are the largest manufacturers in the world. So they don't need solar panels and electric automobiles from United States of America.
Okay, and I'm sorry, were there any changes to your year or reduction rate? Your reduction rate is 2%, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and how much to the Green Climate Fund?
We have topped at $5 billion.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is, yes, thank you to the climate activists for intervening on behalf of those stakeholders. China, do you have any final changes to your pledges you would like to make? Okay, anything else from the US or China? Otherwise, we will...
Yes, we could increase our apportation to the Green Climate Fund, but that depends on the compromise of developing nations, US and European Union, to transfer know-how in technologies as solar panels electric turbines and electromobility to China, so we could increase our ambition and also make this apportation to the climate fund of $500 million.
$500 million? That is nothing compared to the economic size of China. We're committing $30 billion, and you want more material investment beyond this? We're alone committing almost a full third of this, and that is unacceptable. The EU is not going to commit a penny more unless we see actual investment from China and the United States.
The reason why United States is not investing more is because of China. Because China is the second largest economy in the world, and they're the largest manufacturers, and they are literally on $500 million. And what we donate, earlier, United States is the largest donating country in all the countries, but this time we are going on $5 billion, because every time we donate, we don't get the proof of whether the money is the money is used for good things. We don't get to see the climate changes and the sustainable development in the countries which we have donated. So the US won't donate more until China increases their donation. Thank you.
So why are you asking us of increasing our amount of apportation if you say then that money is not having a good use in other places? So we want to be sure then the money is going to be well used. And also we need to, yes, we are now the biggest polluters, but we need to see how the history is. So until now, the US and European Union are the biggest in the EU latitude. So you need to pay.
All right.
History is important, yeah.
I'm muting everyone for just a moment. Just like the real UN climate negotiations, this event has a hard deadline. So any countries or any stakeholders like the climate activists and fossil fuel lobbyists, you have 60 seconds to make any changes to your pledges, and then we are concluding. So anyone with any changes, voice that now.
So the other developed nations would like to say that we can increase our commitment to the climate fund.
Okay.
If the United States commits to reduce their emissions in the next 5 years rather than 2032, we would like to pledge a $2 billion annual commitment.
We respectfully decline. As the nation that is being hit the hardest with COVID-19 right now, we need to be focused on our economic recovery and the health and well-being of our citizens at this time. It is for that reason that we will be taking the stance, and we will be delaying by a few years. As one of the larger economies in the world, we understand, but we will be prioritizing health and safety at this time. Thank you for your time.
I think it's a cowardly choice to be prioritizing health and safety with a 2.1% reduction in, or a 2.1% temperature or degree increase by 2100. How will your citizens be healthy in states like Florida, Texas, and California with that type of temperature increase, considering your annual CO2 reduction rate is a paltry 2%? That is the lowest of any nation in this negotiations, including India, China, and other developing countries. I think that needs to be increased before anything else is discussed.
Well, in all fairness, we think that the pledge reduction rates by India and China are overly ambitious, and we would like to see actual results before we increase to that degree, because we're not sure that that can actually be implemented.
May I?
Sorry, if that was Susan, go ahead. Whoever tried to speak, go ahead.
Yes, this is to US. Climate change is one of the greatest threats in the 21st century. So why do you think you can prioritize the global response to COVID-19 and not climate change?
I would just say that we need people to live. If there would be no people, then the climate change would never occur. Okay, so I mean, if we use our common senses, we need to protect the people first, and then when they are alive, then we can put money into climate change. Yeah, so I'm done.
All right, with that, the negotiations are closed, much like the real climate negotiations. If we can't come to a decision, everything gets postponed to the next year. So this is what we are at. We have 2.1 degrees temperature increase by 2100 under the pledges you have given. And to the Green Climate Fund, we have 35 billion of the necessary 100 billion in order to fund developing nations with needs. And yes, China, India, and other developing nations have all asked for money out of that fund. So that's where we are at. And with that, Aaron, do you want to show us the slide that tells us where these negotiations got us?
Sounds good.
All right, yeah, the 2 degree one.
Where's that? This one?
All right, so based on what you achieved here today, sea level rise this century will be nearly a meter. There will be a 14% reduction of access to fresh water, a 6% increase in the global proportion of land under drought. South America will be the most effective. There will be a doubling of wildfire damage. As many as half of all plant and animal species will go extinct, and our warming over time could reach nearly 6 degrees Celsius. So these are very serious impacts from what we have achieved today. 2.1 degrees warming will have significant impacts on our biodiversity and ecosystems. It will have drastic impacts on human health, and it does not meet the Paris Agreement pledge of 1.5 to 2 degrees warming over global temperature rise over pre-industrial levels. So that is what you have all achieved here today in your negotiations. And with that, Aaron, if you want to unshare and reshare, there's a discussion slide, and Aaron's going to lead us through a debrief.
Can you see my screen?
No.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so to close this out, we just want to reflect on the outcome. And so in the chat, if you all could kind of drop your comments and responses to these questions. The first one is, how do you feel about what happened today? What went well for you? What was challenging? Do you think the real negotiations go this smoothly? Whatever you're kind of feeling, whatever is top of mind, just drop it in the chat, and then we'll kind of review what people have to say. And the second question is, like, what parts of international climate policy do you want to learn more about? But let's focus on the first question, and then you can do the next question.
Are we just jumping in, or are we putting in the chat, or?
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Chat.
So some people are saying it went very smooth compared to what they were expecting. Felt like a real negotiation. There was a lot of tension, especially with the US for sure at the end. I also apologize if my music was too loud for anybody. But that's actually, when I was playing as an activist, that was actually a song. It's called Kyoto Now. And so, yeah, the Kyoto Protocol is like one of the first climate agreements. So I felt like it was appropriate for the activists, but yeah. yeah, there's definitely more negotiations to be had. Let's see what else. China needs to up their game. Very true. Yeah. So what about the second question? So when you're thinking about what happened today, what do you want to learn more about when it comes to international climate policy or UN negotiations? So if you have any comments or thoughts about what you want to learn more about, drop those in the chat now.
See someone raising their hand. I'm gonna unmute you if you'd like to share.
Sorry, can you? Hello.
Hi. Yeah.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to ask, our nations, especially the developed nations now, are there necessary steps that the developed nations make sure that the pledges that these nations make, they follow them? Like, is there a monitoring team that ensures that these pledges are being implemented? Like the US raised the situation, like the funds that are being raised is not used for the appropriate things that they were budgeted for, and it was making mention of things like they are using it to sponsor military operations and stuff. So I wanted to ask: is there a monitoring team or something that ensures that this money is being monitored to ensure it is used for what it was budgeted for?
Yeah, Sydney, do you wanna answer that? Since I see you have some comments about it in the chat.
Yes, so money that has already been pledged to the Green Climate Fund is there, but like you have said, you know, enforcing these pledges is very difficult. There aren't a lot of mechanisms to ensure countries actually do it. And we're also currently having a lot of concerns with transparency with the UN and these countries. And we don't know. We don't know necessarily where the money is always going. And that's something Care About Climate tries to work on, which is encouraging the UN and these countries to be more transparent with civil society, with people like us, so that we know that they are actually following through on their commitments. So you raise a very good point, and unfortunately the answer is we don't always know, and we don't always have the mechanisms to ensure countries are actually following through on their commitments.
Yeah, that was a really good question. I'm also seeing some people saying they want to learn more about climate finance, just more about international climate policy in general. And so, you know, we're actually in process of developing a COP course, which hopefully will walk people through how to speak the UN language, how to you know, operate at these UN climate negotiations more specifically, going into more of the inner workings of the Paris Agreement. So, you know, if you participate in this, you know, we have your contact information, so we'll be sending out more information on some of the educational materials that we're in process of developing. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to, I believe Martha's going to do the last slide.
I think that's it, right, Aaron?
Yeah. So we each have this conclusion slide. So yeah, we'll receive a follow-up email from Sydney with more info on how to get involved with other educational events. Like I mentioned, the COP course is one opportunity that we're working on right now, but we'll hopefully have similar climate simulations like this in the future. So if you have friends that maybe didn't get a chance to participate, you know, feel free to just be on the lookout for that as it comes up. And then if you care to donate or leave a tip or become a Care About Climate member, you can visit our website at careaboutclimate.org/donate. So thank you all for joining us today. It was a really exciting negotiation. Hopefully you all had some fun, also learned some stuff, and got a taste of what the real UN climate negotiations are like. So yeah, thanks again.